Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hey guys, welcome back. And I am joined by the one and only Miss Tammy Goen. Tammy, welcome back to the show. It's finally nice to see you face to face. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back, Casey. And yeah, it's good to actually see who I'm talking with. That's nice.
Well, you introduced us to a term, which is a HSP, if I have that correct. What is an HSP for people who haven't heard our show before?
Yeah, so HSP, highly sensitive person, anybody with a high sensitivity trait. The technical term is sensory processing sensitivity, so it's much easier to just say highly sensitive or HSP. So we're folks that process things at a really deep level. So we see things that other people don't notice sometimes, and we're affected by things that people don't notice. We sometimes can get overwhelmed by things because it's like we don't have the same kind of filters, or we have just like a big sponge and we soak everything up. And that can be, a little much sometimes, but it also allows for a lot of positive things, which I'll talk about today, but it's all about that processing. And so it's about 20% of the population. So it might be more than some people would realize. And there's a lot of people that haven't, recognized the trait yet, realize, they always know that they've always been sensitive, and they probably hear a lot, they're too sensitive, or, not this, not that, they need to change this. But once they become aware of it, it's easier to manage. There's lots of tools that can help with that. And then once we can honor that, then it really can be a positive experience.
So you say about 20%, right? Mm-hmm. What percentage are cancers and what percent are empaths?
What was the first one?
Cancers, born in July.
Oh, gotcha. I'm like, are we going medical here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I will throw in something on that, though, is that it's 50-50 male, female.
Okay.
So even though, especially in our culture, it's not always seen as a cool thing for men to be really sensitive. And so some would not necessarily want to acknowledge that in certain, surroundings, maybe. But it is pretty even. And then within that, about 30% of all the highly sensitives are extroverted. So it's not all introverts, and it's not the same thing as being shy. It's not antisocial. So there's a lot of different things, which I've talked about in, the previous meetings.
I'm just trying to reiterate for people who haven't heard the show before, but like the stereotype of a cancer, a person who's cancer, doesn't matter male or female, but they're just sensitive. Like if you say something in jest, saying I don't know, hey, that's a nice hat you're wearing, and the sensitive person who's wearing a hat might take that, which could be a real and true statement that person meant, saying, were they making fun of me? Were they saying that I had is that kind of is that a highly sensitive person?
It could be. It kind of, in that situation, I think it depends more on like the self-esteem issue, how they take compliments and that kind of thing. But a highly sensitive person would be thinking, oh, I wonder why they said that.
Right.
Is it, and so we do tend to overthink things or think through things very deeply. So if it is something that's kind of questionable, what was that a compliment? Did it have, is there an ulterior motive here? Then we can kind of go down the rabbit hole, basically.
You'll overthink it a million times, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. How does self-love work into working with someone who is an HSP?
That is a great idea, because it's really all about honoring the sensitivities, that trait. If you can honor that, then everything else, you have a different viewpoint on everything if you can honor that. And so if you can learn, and that's why I work with my clients with that all the time, is trying to develop that sense of self-honoring and self-love. If you can acknowledge that you're okay as you are, as a highly sensitive person, not in spite of, but because of, or whether it means, makes any difference or not. If you're just okay regardless, then, it helps everything else to kind of fall into place more. And then, which is why I want to talk about benefits today, because if you have the tools so that you're not being overwhelmed, and you really own that part of you and say, yeah, I'm a highly sensitive person. And then you can say, this is how, all the ways that it helps me. This is how I help the world. These are all of the good things. And so you can really thrive versus just trying to survive because, you feel like you're so different from the other 80% of the world, and, people don't understand you, and it's, really challenging. So when you get to that deeper sense of acceptance, self-love, and then everything else is so much easier.
Now, you are, I shouldn't say afflicted. I would say that you are experienced in HSP because you are one, correct?
Correct. Yes.
When did you know, for the people who didn't hear, just to set up this baseline here?
Yeah. I've always known that I was really, really sensitive. For me, it's pretty much across the board, physically, emotionally, environment, everything, thoughts, emotions. And I just always was, and I knew that. But it was always like a too sensitive thing, or, I have a memory of being on the school bus and having a person turn around and go, Tammy, you're such a worrywart, and I'm thinking, well, why would you not be concerned about this particular issue, and then rethinking and, well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that kind of, so there's a lot of that kind of experience for most of us throughout our lives.
A lot of stuff going on up here.
Oh yeah. And second guessing and, being very critical of ourselves and that kind of thing. So, but it wasn't until about 11, maybe 12 years ago that I discovered the trait itself, because I had this altercation with a couple of friends of mine and just wasn't getting it resolved. And it was just something I just couldn't let it go, which is another part of the trait, just, holding on to things because, processing. So someone that was trying to help me through that sent me to an inventory online for traits of a highly sensitive person. And I read through that, and it was like, all the bells went off, and I'm like, wow, this is me. And it's not just me, obviously, or there wouldn't be an inventory online for people to find. So, wow, it's, there's other people out there experiencing the same thing. So that's how that came about. And then I just decided, like, wow, okay, I need to learn as much as I can, for myself. So
you could help other people with it. Yeah.
Right.
And was it almost a relief when you found that, hey, there's people like me?
Oh, it was a huge relief. It was so validating. And a lot of immediately, really, some of that self-talk, that negative self-talk of, you need to change, you need to fix this, this is wrong, this isn't okay, suddenly became, oh, wait a minute, maybe I am okay. Maybe that is all okay. There's a reason that I act this way or react this way. So it was, very powerful, very validating. And then, which I help my clients do also, I was able to eventually reframe everything in my life up until that point. Oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why I did that. And that didn't go so well. Or, all of those things, like, okay, now I get it.
You got another view now to look at it.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. And from knowing what you know, can you have a conversation with somebody, or, maybe you're at a party, or maybe you're at a dinner or something like that, and, without saying anything to them, but in your head, that's somebody that is kind of like me.
Yeah, actually that does happen. And I'll have clients come to me every once in a while. They'll say, no, I'm not highly sensitive. And I will talk for a while, and I'll be thinking, well, would you be, up for taking this little inventory, and then they start reading the statements on the list, right? And they're going, oh, that's me. And then they realize, oh, that's, everybody's not that way. And it's not just me being weird. There's, oh, okay. So I guess maybe I am highly sensitive.
Right.
But like my nephew for sure is highly sensitive. And I've been saying it since he was, little boy. He's almost 19 now. And, I was always encouraging my sister. I'm like, oh, you should have him take this, inventory. And of course he's a boy. So it's harder to accept, in some ways, be like, well, yeah, that's just the way things are. But everything that I would see him do, it just or the
Right
way
on.
you act or speak, and I'd say, oh yeah, definitely. And usually I'm pretty on, but then there's also, there's a really big spectrum, a big range in the sensitivity realm. So there are a lot of people that actually can be pretty sensitive on certain levels or certain, they can take the inventory and maybe they only score maybe half. So they're not really identified necessarily as a highly sensitive person with a real strong trait. But, a couple of those things might really resonate and say, oh, I'm really sensitive this way and this way. So sometimes, people can, it's not like anybody who's not highly sensitive is completely insensitive.
Well, I get you.
That
Yeah.
level. Yeah.
Tammy, how do people with this tend to do in relationships?
So it kind of depends. If we're aware of it and then we work on it or work on ourselves, our self-love, and then learn how to communicate with others in those relationships, then it can be amazing. It can really thrive. If there's a lot of self-doubt and a lot of judgment and, hearing constantly, you need to do this, you need to do that, let that go, don't worry about this, I didn't say that, why are you getting angry? And it doesn't have any platform to be, worked through.
We got work to do then.
Right. Then it can be really challenging if you've got, a highly sensitive and non-highly sensitive and trying to make that mesh. But with the awareness, that's a big part of it. And then, learning how to share that with others and then have that conversation and understand that we won't, as highly sensitives, we won't really get non-highly sensitives exactly as they won't get us exactly, because we just come from a different place, but we can understand that they come from a different place and learn how to navigate that, how to work with that so that everyone is supported and one person isn't feeling like, oh, they just need to change to make everything okay.
Got it. Can you talk about the benefits now?
Yes. So it is easy to get overwhelmed and feel like everything's a challenge. And when people first learn about it, they kind of often feel that way of like, oh my gosh, no wonder it's just so hard. What do I do with this? But it's important to know that if you have the tools and you take the time to, to build that awareness and the self-love and honoring, it can be really amazing. And one of the things that we don't tend to realize is that a lot of the things that are just automatic for us that are because of the trait, we just assume everybody is experiencing and it's not a big deal, so it's good to point out some of those things too. So you can say, oh, okay, that's something unique to me as a highly sensitive person that maybe not everybody else is experiencing.
Like what?
Pardon?
Like what? If you could give me an example would be great.
Yeah, like one of the things that I would never ever give up is how much I'm moved by nature and art and beauty. And I mean, I can cry so easily for things that are amazing, like really happy, heartwarming stories, or an amazing sunset or something like that. That it's just so intense sometimes, and other people can be.
That's okay. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's pretty. That's nice. And you're going, what?
But what do you mean? It's just okay.
Yeah.
Do you not see this?
It's just such an enriching part of life. It just makes things so much deeper. And we tend to read external cues really well. So we tend to kind of pick up on the vibe of a situation and know what needs to happen, what a person specifically might need to feel better or to resolve a situation. We might be able to tell, just how to create a solution for a situation that others might not be able to be aware of because they didn't take in every idea or thought or possibility. We see lots and lots of possibilities, which is part of that, letting your mind kind of go crazy and overthink things because we're like, oh, what about this? And oh, what about that? And well, it could be this. And so we do take in a lot of information, and that gives us a lot to work with. And not everybody takes in all of that information. So
you guys would probably make awesome teachers, nurses, guidance counselors, coaches. Am I right?
Yep, we tend to be that way, and leaders, and often good employers because we can understand what employees are needing,
Yeah,
and see the big scope of everything. and all different sides. So those are really good benefits. And we have really deep connections. I mentioned earlier that we're not antisocial. Sometimes it can seem that way because we tend to not like giant groups or like tons of activity.
It must be overwhelming.
Yeah, it gets really overwhelming. So sometimes we'll opt out of certain things if they're really big, or we can get, to the end of the day and our energy levels are depleted and we really just need to go in and calm and say, so sometimes we'll say, you know what, I wanted to go to dinner, but I need to pass and let's reschedule. So sometimes people will think, oh, we're just, antisocial, but actually we really thrive on really deep connections. So we tend to have fewer, but really close friendships.
Okay.
And we want to have that, intimacy in all of our relationships, because that's something that we just resonate with and really thrive on. And then we have, higher levels of compassion and empathy usually, which can be, of course, helpful in all different ways. And in addition to helpers and healers, we also tend to be very creative. So a lot of the creatives, musicians and artists and actors and podcast interviewers and
and how about pet owners?
Yeah. Pardon?
Pet owners. You guys probably like animals a lot, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do. We tend to really have a strong bond with both nature and animals. So yeah, a lot of the, animal traders and things like that. We do have that connection. And then we also have, a really deep self-awareness. I mean, sometimes when we're not aware of the trait and we're struggling a lot, it can be confusing because we're like, oh, I feel this and I know this about myself, but it's not being accepted. But once you can work with that, then it's, we're very intuitive and we have that high, level of self-awareness, which is really helpful.
Then you're in a pear tree. So let's go to your fans. Let's go to the audience. My producer, what you got, my friend?
We have Alyssa in Oregon asks, are HSPs more likely to notice and remember minor details about a person?
Ooh, good one. I want to know that.
Yes, and I have a good answer for this. I actually did this online test one time, maybe 6 months ago, and it was supposedly through CIA, I don't know, section somewhere or whatever, and they popped up like they gave you a little snapshot of somebody to look at and then moved it away, and then they gave you two pictures, one of the same person, one of a different person, but from completely different angles. And, or maybe like the first time was a hat and the second time there's no hat, but a beard or something. So a lot of shifting. And then you were supposed to, within, I think, 5 seconds or something, identify which was the person.
Oh,
and
cool.
So, and I think there were maybe 30 of those. And I got something like, 92% accuracy or something. So,
wow.
So that is actually one of those
attention
things.
to detail. Yeah.
Yeah, very much to detail. So a great question.
So it sounds like so far. I mean, it besides everything going on up there and being overwhelmed at times, but it seems like this is a blessing.
Yes, and that's why I always call it, as most of us do. I mean, that are really working with others in that realm with HSPs. That it's our superpower.
Superpower, love it. All right, Miss Producer, what else you got?
We have Stephen in Atlanta who asks, do HSPs have a history of holding grudges longer than others?
Oh, another great one.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. Yes, we do have a tendency, to hold on to stuff and not let things go. And for a lot of the time, it's because we're seeing it from all these different angles and we want to check it all out. And if someone says, just forget it and let it go, like just without, processing it or doing anything with it, like, it's no big deal, let it go. And you're like, no, it really was a big deal because, and then, so yes, we tend to, we can hold grudges. And so that's one of the reasons it's really important to increase those communication skills with people. So you can say, you know what, I know you want to let this go and you already have, it was 3 days ago, but I'm still processing it. So if we could just spend 10 minutes and work through this, it definitely helps. But so
I'm smiling because I know everyone listening to this right now is like, oh, that's Joe, or oh, that's Ann. That is exactly. I gotta tell them about this because you're describing people that everyone knows, and it's really.
And that's the beauty of sharing it, is so people can pass it on to people that it can help. And then others that they can, get their own help because then they can say, okay, oh, now that's me. Now what do I do with this? And make it.
Yeah, that's my next question. So Tammy, so anybody listening and like, yeah, this is totally me. Maybe I should look into this. What do they do?
If they go to my link tree, linktr.ee/ and then my name, TAMMYGOEN. I have a link on there for an inventory. So you can go there and say, oh, am I highly sensitive, or am I likely, to be, or I can have someone else, because that sounds like, Joe or whatever. And they can take that inventory. There's also all the ways to contact me. There's my website. There's actually, if you know your HSP, then I have a guide on there for how to talk to non-HSPs about the trait and how to, share that for yourself. So all of my information is on there. So resources, contacts. But I always start with that inventory because it's very enlightening. If you're like, well, I don't know, kind of sounds like me. And then you take the inventory and you're like, wow. Okay, I realized this was about that, not everybody is in this same area, now that makes sense with, why I butt heads with so-and-so or whatever.
Right.
That's super important. Yeah.
Miss Producer, do I have time for one more? Yeah, I got time. Okay. Yeah, you go ahead.
We have Phyllis in San Diego asks, can highly sensitive people tell if they mesh with someone right away, or will they see them multiple times?
I'm sorry, can they tell?
Yeah, can you read that again, if you don't mind?
It says, can highly sensitive people tell if they mesh with someone right away, or will they see them multiple times?
I don't think there's a hard answer for that. I think we pick up, if we're listening to our intuition, if we're really paying attention to our responses, we do tend to know right away if we mesh. But we have learned to adjust and change and question.
Mhm.
So I think if people are very aware, yes, it can be immediate. You just get in the room because you feel that energy. It's just and I'll talk 1 week about energy, because that's one of the big things when people come to me like, I don't know what to do with all this. But we do tend to pick that up, and you just be like, I resonate with this person, or I really don't. And I don't have anything to base that on, necessarily. I can just tell that. But we can say, oh, I shouldn't do that, or well, I don't even know that. You second guess that and stop listening to the intuition or paying attention to that energy. Then it can take a little while. And then what will happen usually is by the third or fourth time you realize, and you're like, yeah, this is not working. I really knew that the first time. I just didn't listen. So, kind of a soft answer there, but.
Thank you guys for writing in. Can I do one more? I can do one more. Okay, let's do one more here, guys. This is Tammy Goen, and so interesting. This is great stuff. All right, go ahead.
We have Camille in Boston asks, are HSPs more likely to follow their intuition than others, and will they listen to it?
So kind of a follow-up on that last question, right? If we allow ourselves, if we honor ourselves and we get used to listening to our intuition and following it, then yes, we will be more likely to pay attention. In general, we pay more attention to our body responses, to our emotional responses, because we're just processing everything more. So some people that might just ignore things or not pay attention, even if they're having some real visceral, response, their gut's all, funny or something, they'll just like, turn it away, and then it'll just move on.
Well, tell me, let me ask you the same question. After they take the questionnaire or whatever you may call it, and then meet with you and realize, hey, this is what this is me. Then if you ask that question again, what would you say?
Then the person is likely to listen more. It still takes some practice. There's a lot of fine tuning to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because we're so used to not listening, or to not so much not listening, but like counteracting or discounting. So it still takes practice to listen. And then there are techniques for actually learning how to tune in and really listening to the answer. It's like, okay, I'm having some kind of visceral response. I don't know what to do with it. Let's go somewhere else or just remove myself from the situation or whatever. But when you can learn to say, okay, I'm having a response here. What's going on? Identify exactly what that is and then ask and really tune in. We have our answers.
There we go. Nice. So interesting. Hey, Tammy Goen, let me give you the last word here. I don't know if I told you, but my grandmother, when she wanted to hear from me when I was a kid, she said, Casey, you have the floor, meaning anything that you want to say, I'm listening. So, Miss Tammy, you have the floor. And then once again, tell us how to get a hold of you, please. Another great show. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who wrote in. And then I'm sorry if I didn't get to everybody.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. And I think what I would leave everybody with is just, if you are highly sensitive, remember that all of these parts of the trait, all of these characteristics can be amazing benefits. So if you're struggling with something, if you can stop, take a little breath, and then say, this is challenging, but how is this helping me? Or how is this helping in this situation? Or how can it? And open the door for that possibility that, yeah, even though it feels like a struggle, what direction can I go? How can I allow this to help me or somebody else? But just open that, have that thought that it doesn't have to all be, a challenge. It can be really, really amazing. So, and then again, yes, just on Linktree, Tammy Goen, TammyGoen, and I've got lots of resources, and you can set up a free discovery call. There's a link on there for doing that if you just want to chat and see what's what. And then one thing that I have forgotten in all this time to mention too, if you are highly sensitive, I would strongly recommend getting the book, The Highly Sensitive Person by Elaine Aron. If you're like, oh, yep, taking the inventory, that's me, that's the best place to start. And then you can also give me a call.
Awesome. Guys, Tammy Goen, pleasure, great show. Thank you to everyone who wrote in. Can't wait to hear what you have to say next, Tammy. Thanks so much. And we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.